There we go. Hello, I think we're here. Hello, everybody. Okay, good. There you can see us a little bit better. So everybody, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited for number 2 in our series. And we have the beautiful Maria Wheatley back again. Hi, Maria.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Happy new moon. Happy new moon, everyone. So it's so much fun that we're doing this retreat in September on the full moon. And then we did the first show on the full moon. And now we're doing the second show on the new moon. So the third show, we probably have to move it a couple days. So we do it on the full moon again. We get all of our moons lined up. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Let me just share my slides real quick so I can share a little bit about Maria if you happen to be new to her and want to make sure that you come and have a chance to get one of our seats. We do have a limit on this retreat because of the Stonehenge private access tickets. So if you're interested, please reach out. I'm happy to help you with any information. And you've got these on the screen and down below, there's a link. So make sure that you do that. Come subscribe onto my, my channel here, then you'll know when we go, but also onto my list at nanakasha.com. And we'll make sure that you know about all of our goodies. So welcome. Today we're going to talk about the next couple of sites. And as you know, Maria is an expert on Stonehenge. She lives in the area. She's probably been there more than any one human alive. And she discovered this long-skulled civilization in the British Isles, and the queens and the priestesses and the rulers and all of these amazing places that have been misunderstood, like Long Barrows, and we're going to be going to on the full moon. So the first day we talked about last week, also take a look, or 2 weeks ago, take a look at that show. It was phenomenal. We talked all about the secrets of Stonehenge being a goddess temple, phase 1 and 2, how it was built, how it was used, and all of the wonderful things that we're going to get to do. And then we also talked about Wells Cathedral and Venus, so don't miss that. And here is our tour. It's going to happen in September over the full moon. Make sure that you join me for the Oracle of the Week. And since today is the new moon, I wanted to remind you that I did a new moon Oracle reading last week. So I did readings for people with our beautiful deck. And we also do have a class coming up on that. And then our next one is going to be talking about the Dragon Hill area, Epona, the horse goddess, the other sacred sites of the lost temples. So there's Maria and I last year at the tea house in Glastonbury. So I want to give you a little bit about Maria. This is all on the website as well. And of course, you can find her, Maria Wheatley. And she's got several websites. They're all below. So as a second generation master dowser who was taught by European master dowsers, her late father, and Chinese geomants, she's UK's leading authority on earth energies and ley lines that were skillfully incorporated into megalithic sites. So she runs sacred tours, hence the reason we're doing a sacred tour worldwide. She just got back from America's Stonehenge, which I didn't even know existed until I met you. And you get to experience these energies of Gaia, and she's felt them all. It's amazing the amount of information that this woman holds. She's an accomplished author of many books on sacred sites, dowsing, past life astrology. I've got them all in my page here on my shelf. And she discovered the Neolithic long-headed lost civilization of the British Isles. And the interesting thing about them, she'll share more as we go through, is that they had a very mythical look, a little bit like fairies, just because of the difference of their skull shape, their placement. And the beautiful thing is that she's also discovered these healing music and color harmonics that are in the frequencies, the stones, the crystals, and the combination of earth energies, cosmic alignments, and everything else that the ancients harnessed for healing temples, for psychic, for intuition, for travel, for all kinds of things, even I believe, charging seeds to have better growth in your farm. So she studied Neolithic Britain, Bronze Age history, Bath, Oxford, and I know recently went to Cambridge, and works closely with Gaia's healing energies to help heal the body. That's the beautiful thing, as she explained in the first video. When we go to these sacred sites, we go in a sacred way. What does that mean? We have a lot of fun. We're there for joy. We're there for healing. We're there for discovering who we are. We're there for shifting these energies, right, bringing back the sacred feminine, rebalancing ourselves, yin and yang. And there's different places at these sites that are specifically aligned to that, for reincarnation or for healing or for cleansing. And if you enter these sites in the way that they were intended, you're automatically cleansed. And this is true all over the world. So the beautiful thing is that as a druid, she follows the Celtic path, and she's written a lot of diploma courses. I'm studying master dowsing with her. If you go to esotericcollege.com, and she teaches advanced dowsing techniques. So the fun thing is, this is her book, and we have a link on the site to go over. That's also at her website. I highly recommend it. I have it right here. It's amazing. I go back to it and just open and read, and I like to mark up my books because there's so much there. And these are a few pictures when I was with Maria last year. I'm also speaking with her at her conference in September. So if you come, maybe you can stay for that. It's just a few days after, and it's called The Mysterious Universe. And I'll make sure and send another note out about that. If it isn't below, we'll put that there. And this was when we were with her at this beautiful place last time. So we really get to experience the earth energies when you go there. You get to experience the history, and then the secret history, and the other energies that are underneath and behind the standard story. And that's the fun part. And we do as much as we can to interact, to get inside of these sites, to do sacred meditation, activations, maybe music, sound healing, because we are there to honor the land, the guardians of the spirit, ourselves, if perhaps we were there in another life, the Celtic lineage, the wisdom that is here. All of these secrets and sacred knowledge are ready to rise again. They're speaking, they're calling. More people are going to these sites than ever before. So I hope that you will join us. And I'm going to go back now so we can experience the beautiful Maria in person. Thanks so much for being here, sweetie. I know you're so busy. You just got back from America.
Yeah, it was great. It's an amazing site, America's Stonehenge, and it has some very unusual aspects to it.
And is there any actual link with Stonehenge?
No, they don't look at all like. It used to be called, when my father went there, Mystery Hill. It's a modern name, America's Stonehenge, presumably because Stonehenge is known worldwide. But it looks nothing like Stonehenge. It's more like a long barrow. And they have inner chambers, megalithic chambers that are really nice. But one room inside of a chamber is called the Oracle Room. And if you know where to look, it has a kind of cylinder-like hole. And in front of that, by around sort of 10 feet away or so, there's what they call the sacrificial table, which I don't like that emotive word. I think it's an altar stone for healing. And I found an identical stone to it in Wales. So if you imagine, there's a huge block, probably about 10 feet long, like a table with a carving around it. And if you're by that altar stone, or the sacrificial table as it's called, and you speak through the oracle room and somebody is saying things in the oracle room, the sound rises up from the table. It is something to experience, and I made sure that all of the guests experience that one wonder of America's Stonehenge.
Wow. So that's such a great example to segue directly into our second day in September, which is actually the full moon. So of course, if we're there the 3 days around the full moon, we're getting the full moon every day. But on this day, we are actually going to go to a long barrow that we will get to go inside of, and maybe doesn't have an oracle stone, although now you've got my mind thinking of how to create something like that, where you can speak the vibrations of healing in some kind of
you
different
certainly
sound.
can in the barrow. Yeah, sorry to buy it. Yeah, you certainly can in the barrow that we're going to, Stony Littleton, because it's got a very long gallery or a corridor that you crawl down on your hands and on your knees. You will crawl down, and then there's various different chambers at the side and a far chamber at the end. And everybody here that I've taken has done some kind of sound toning inside of Stony Littleton Long Barrow. It's one of the best preserved barrows in that area of Somerset. So it's well worth visiting, and it is literally like going into the womb of the earth and then coming out slightly different, like a rebirth, like being reborn again. And it has these energy points around the outside that have energy rising up. So that's very powerful as well, to experience the energy outside of the monument and then experience it and what it does when it goes inside of the monument as well. So it's a really good like before and after zones.
Right. Yes. And so is there a particular way that you use the outside points before you go in? Or I know everyone experiences them differently, but sometimes it's like, this is a cleansing stone, or this aligns your spine. No.
They're the stones that I discovered at Avebury. So the stones and the cleansing area at Avebury is quite unique to Avebury. Stony Littleton is on top of a hill. Yeah, and it's got a large hill in front of it. And those particular areas where it rises out of the ground are good for new beginnings and to work with, what do you want to change, for example, and depending on the growth of the grass there at particular times of the year, you can actually see where they come out of the ground. It's very, very powerful. So it is very different to experiencing a place like Avebury. That's the great thing about various different ancient sites. They're quintessentially different. They share some similarities, but Stony Littleton stands alone because the energy pattern there you won't be experiencing at any other long barrow in the southwest of England. In fact, it shares a very similar energy pattern to Hathor's temple in Egypt.
Oh, wow.
So it is. So I know you were getting excited thinking linking it into Avebury, but it is so unique, Stony Littleton. And not only that, in my research that I've done on the long-skulled priestesshood and priests and kings as well, just to balance that off, there was a very unusual skull that I found related to Stony Littleton in an archaeological report written centuries ago, describing the long skull, but what seemed to be like a natural or non-natural depression that went from like where your hair parting goes, if it's in the middle, and then an indentation going right the way down her nose. And in some cultures, they would deliberately scar the skull. Like in Brittany, I discovered a lot of the priestesshood there made their partings here into a T parting like this. So you've got a scar over here, and then they're following the suture down the front. So it's possible that skull has scar tissue, but it's in a university in the south of England, and it's only in pieces now. It's called a fragmented skull, so it's not all survived in one like the other skulls that I photographed for my book. And it's getting more and more difficult to handle human remains.
Yeah. Permission wise and stuff.
Exactly. It's difficult and problematic.
Yeah. I think, didn't you have an artist draw this woman with I feel like I saw something
Yeah, I haven't published it yet
Oh, okay.
because it came too late for the actual book, as these things
Okay.
often do. Yeah, you just find out something and it's already gone
Yes.
to print. But yes, I got Maureen Branwen Walton, and she's very good at, following a directive, following different sizes, and creating something. So yeah, she did a very, very good depiction. And quite often when I take people to Stony Littleton, I take a picture of her and we put it back into her chamber, which was it's in a unique place in Stony Littleton. I know the exact place where that skull came from, so we can really relate to this high priestess. And it's such healing, transformative, alchemic energy at Stony Littleton. I think it was a healing, an oracle temple. Yeah. And we can experience that energy inside of her healing chamber. So we're really relating to the women of the past for women of today and men alike.
This is part of what's happening overall as one of the underlying currents to the big evolutionary shift that we're going through, is raising the sacred feminine back up from being burned and erased and everything, but as balance. But it's so depleted that none of us alive today know what it's like for a woman to walk in a reality, in a mindset, in a culture, in a society that would revere this. We've not been allowed to own these powers and all the different things that have been done to cover it up. So I really believe that when we go there, it's for you if you're called to come and you are awakening something for the world. You are going to take that back with you. You're going to receive your own messages. You're going to give this queen and these other energies and all the wise ones, all the ancients that were there that align with your harmonious intent, are going to be now given a voice. It's very profound.
Yes, I mean, it's interesting that you say that, because I really did feel I became their voice, because nobody had talked or discussed about them. I mean, I discovered the first elongated skulled woman 10 years ago now in 2015. So I've been, literally put into pieces of their past civilization, their lost civilization together again. And I believe, like what you said, just to echo that when we go to their power places, because they are power places, then we can tap into that energy, and we can tap into that Akashic record of place and bring that forth into our daily lives, and hopefully bring it forth for others as well.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that I realized is that when you go somewhere, might just be down the street, but when you go somewhere sacred in a sacred way, you have a consciousness shift and a healing and all these different things. But there's a transference that happens. And we often think we're going there to get something. Oh, heal me, give me my purpose, align me with my voice. And that's great. But without realizing it, and it would be nice to go with the intent that we're also there to give. And we're not there to give as an ego. Oh, I'm going to fix you. You're there to say, I know I'm carrying some codes, something in my light body, in me, that is beneficial as well for this site. And then sometimes you will feel it. You will feel the sites, the energies pulling from you magnetically, not in a creepy way, right? Just this transference. So there's a beauty that's happening now that we have a higher state of consciousness to be able to sense more of what's happening. And then going with you where you know where these energies are, and also dowsing the energies. So what are some of the types of earth energies that are here in Stony Littleton?
Well, the unique thing about this day, which we're going to share with Stony Littleton and the goddess temple of Stanton Drew, is we are mostly interacting with feminine earth energy. Whereas when you go to somewhere like Avebury or Stonehenge or Glastonbury, you tend to have points where the male and the female currents come together, or they may be flowing by themselves, but it is the male and the female of those currents that entwine in a lay. At Stony Littleton, you have one of the most powerful forms of feminine energy. It is ultimately feminine. That's what Stony Littleton is about. That's why, in my humble opinion, as a geomancer, it is womb-like. You're entering into this energetic space. And it is quite enclosed, but it also makes you feel open, which sounds contradictory because you're in a very confined space, but you feel at the same time it's very open. And to, like I mentioned, to reach out through the timeless way to the high priestess of place, it's like she never left. She may have been taken to a university physically, but metaphysically, she is there. And so many people have felt her presence when I've taken people in. And some people even know what chamber she was in long before I say anything, because I truly believe that most people, when they go to ancient sites, they are so overwhelmed with the stones, the structure, how it looks, they forget about the people. And I don't blame them. You know, when I go to places, I look up, you know, and in Karnak and places, they're massive. But we need to think of the people that constructed them and why, and to honor that. And that has been overlooked in England, because prior to some of my discoveries, nobody knew who built them.
Yes,
it was like it was a mystery. It's quite strange.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, even in Egypt, where we have probably more information than anywhere else just because of popular interest, they still don't really talk the real story of all the alchemical language and everything that was there and what happened. Here in the Maya land, they do the same thing. They don't even change the names to what they now know were the real name of the temples. They keep the stupid Spanish names, you know, and they don't shift into, well, we thought this was used for this, you know. And to me, if the scholars keep ignoring the mind of the people who built and used these places, how on earth do you really expect to know what it was used for? They go together hand in hand.
Yeah, I agree, and it's the same in Egypt. They use Greek names like Hathor, Cheops. I mean, that was the Ptolemies that came in and made it kind of slightly Greek, Egyptian Greek. And a lot of people use those names. But I think when we do reach out, you know, from the heart mind, in these wonderful places that we'll be going to at the full moon, when the moon is in its beautiful cycle of the high moon that I'll discuss later, we are at the peak time of its beauty, its power, and its high res energy, and it will be high res. And after which, as well, once we have interacted with the feminine energies of Stony Littleton's womb-like place, then we will go to Stanton Drew stone circles, which is a wonder because it's the second largest stone circle in England. It's got a huge round stone circle. It's very, very large. It had up to 30, some people say 36 stones. It hasn't really had the surveying rather, that has been done at places like Avebury and Stonehenge. So it's a little bit more of, were there 30, were there 36, for example. And then there's a smaller stone circle towards the northeast, which has 8 huge stones that are in situ. Bear in mind, when you go to Avebury and Stonehenge, it's reconstructed. When you go to Stanton Drew, nothing has been re-erected and set in concrete. It's completely as the ancients had it. And those stones that stand have stood for thousands and thousands of years, and they're not propped up with metal like at Stonehenge and Avebury. On the inside of some stones, you have metal at Avebury and Stonehenge because they were so, falling forwards. So yes, so we are going to Stanton Drew afterwards, which is a goddess temple.
Yeah, and so talk about the earth energies and the energies of stones that are still in place, that haven't been moved, that haven't been concreted or metal or any of that, even though they probably have been chipped off, because that seemed to be universal.
Not so much at Stanton Drew, because it's in a little village. It doesn't have a big town by it. It doesn't have houses very close to it. You've got a few more modern houses and an old farm. That's it. Yeah, and a river running by it called the River Chew. So the very large stone circle, the Great Stone Circle, and the smaller one of 8 stones I just mentioned, it was noted by an astronomer many years ago that if they are projected to be the Earth and the moon in the heavens above, they match each other's size. So they represent the Earth and they represent the moon, which is quite a wonder. And the other stone circle we're interact with, they're on lower ground. You've got the Great Circle, the other Northeast Circle. Then on high elevated ground, you have the Temple of the Moon, which has around about 12 stones, some of which have fallen down, but you can look over to see the other 2 circles. So you'll have in like an aerial view now down on the circles. And if on the night of the full moon that you stand in one of those stone circles on what's called an axis line. So if you imagine a line drawn from one stone circle to the other, then you're on the axis line, the lunar axis line, and you will see the beautiful moon rise, obviously towards the east. I mean, you could actually see that in any area, and the elevated ground is really nice for viewing it, because you've got a whole horizon line. Then around a lot of stone circles, you get the goddess in the landscape. And the goddess in the landscape is like 2 hills. One kind of sometimes represents her head and maybe her breast, and then her long body. So you sometimes get these 2 curvatures of hills. And at Stanton Drew, you can see clearly on the elevated ground and on lower ground alike, the goddess in the landscape. You get that near Avebury at a place called Alton Barnes, and you get that at Stonehenge, for example. At Woodhenge, you can see the goddess in the landscape. So it's quite symbolic that the goddess is there. With the smaller northeast circle of 8, it's over a period of time. Venus will do, 8 transits, as it's called, in the heavens above. Just imagine her moving around. You don't have to imagine what a transit is, but she moves around basically. And when she does so, she draws a pentagram in the heavens above that many people can Google or already know, and that's encoded into that stone circle as well. And there's always 99 moons when you have the 8 transits of Venus as well. And that's quite interesting. When I went to Stanton Drew with a Chinese geomant who was very, very knowledgeable, and I've had the privilege of learning from many different cultures. I'm not just an English dowser. I got taught from Chinese geomants. When we went to Stony Littleton, he instantly walked over to one stone, which is curious. It's curious because it's square. You've got a square stone, and you don't often have square stones within.
That was at Stony Littleton or Stanton Drew?
Stanton Drew. We're at Stanton Drew now.
Okay.
And there's a square-shaped stone. And we went there and, did some energy work. And in the unusual esoteric side of Earth energies, there are what's called magic squares. Okay, so if we imagine that you've got spiral energies, you have circular earth energies, you have meandering earth energies, and then you have a kind of, sometimes they're not a perfect square with corners, but they're square-like. And that's the Venus, beautiful shape of
Here's
Venus.
The Venus one you just talked about.
The Kiss of Venus, that's called.
And the Wells Cathedral will be the day before with the specialist about that. And then what was the thing you were just talking about? I also had that.
I was saying that at Stanton Drew, you have this square-like stone.
Oh, I know, the squares.
And in esoteric earth energies, you often have a square-like shape, and that's the one that you're showing there is called Lo Shu.
This one?
That's called Lo Shu. It's used in feng shui, it's used in magic. Western magic, and each one of those is a direction. The number 4 is the southeast, the number 9 is in the south, so you can use it as a kind of feng shui map. And either way that you add up those numbers, 859, 492, 672, etc., it will always add up to the number 15. It's called its magic constant. And it's Stanton Drew. That's the most commonest that manifests in the land. And this is what the ancients were looking for. And the Chinese geomant that I learned from, he got taught about the magic squares to some regard, because he was from Lo Shu culture, what uses the magic square, but also from the Kogi Indians. They would tell you that the strongest earth energies are the spiral, the square, and lastly, the line. Yeah, that's how they see it. So if you imagine that these can manifest, and then we can project numbers onto them. Yeah, so they manifest as a kind of square-like energy pattern, and then we project numbers onto them at Stanton Drew in the Venus transit circle in the northeast. We can divine with dowsing the magic square of Venus that raises the feminine energy of that place, but within and without us as well, meaning within ourselves and for others alike. And that's what the Chinese geomants look for in the land. They would look for Lo Shu. Do you see what I mean? That's what they would look for first. And it was my father that really looked into Lo Shu in the UK. And intriguingly, I got a team of experts to measure that square-like shape at Avebury. There's a very powerful one at Avebury. And then to test the frequency somewhere else. And it was a particular frequency that allows us to make the correct decision in quite a fast way. Okay?
Wow.
So if we work with Lo Shu or Saturn square, so that's what it's often called in Western magical belief systems, then we can raise magic, and we can work with these magic squares of the land. And I can show you when we're there how simple it is to start to formulate your house like feng shui masters to Lo Shu. It's really, really easy. It's just a lot of people make it sound very, very complicated. But I can show you that even numerology is born from Lo Shu because it's got the numbers, 1 to 9. Yeah. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's presented 492 as the top row, but it does contain the 9, and even numerology is born from that particular square, and that's Lo Shu, because in Chinese mythology or Chinese holy history, however you want to view it, that a turtle came out of the river Lo. Yeah. And they had the numbers on her back.
Oh my gosh.
So the turtle came out of the water. And I know you've got turtle energy around where you live, Nan. So I thought I'd add that in for your love of the turtles there. And that's how Lo Shu manifested it came from the waters, which I think is a metaphor for the deep waters of the earth energies. It came out and it bore its magic to us. And today it is still used in the art of placement in Feng Shui. So we'll be able to interact with some very magical, powerful Venus square at the Venus temple at Stanton Drew on the night of the moon, the full moons. And I think it will be very, very powerful. And it will be a grace as well to experience how each person will be experiencing it, and what they will get from working with the magical esoteric side of earth energies that nobody talks about, because the Chinese geomans didn't pass that information off lightly. It's very profound and very sacred. But I will certainly be imparting that at Stanton Drew because of the power of place and the power of the moon upon that night.
Yeah, it's such an amazing experience to bring all these together. And that's why when I first talked to you about this, I was like, oh my gosh, look at it. It's the full moon near there. So we kind of jigged around, and then we were like, what is the complement to that? You know, of course, Stonehenge, and then that being a goddess temple. So it's sort of, and then the queens that you discovered. So the whole thing is, you know, this moon energy and getting to pull it in. It was interesting. You said that the other two circles were equal and they represented the earth and the moon, because in the Mayan cosmovision, the earth and the moon, they call it the heart of the sky and the heart of the, the earth, and they're equal partners, and you're in the middle, right? You're the heart of the hearts, and you have these two, and having that equal energy, being feminine. And there was something you said last time about we have the earth feminine, the moon feminine, and were we talking about Venus? No, it was something else. There were three feminine planets that Venus, yeah, right here. So these all represent three different feminine planets, star energies here at this site.
And nowhere else in England will you have that. This is what I mean when we went back to Stony Littleton and I said it's different from Avebury. Just what I mean. Stanton Drew does share some things with other sites, but again, we will find more female earth energies there. And one thing I love to take people is to the avenues. It's got 2 avenues there. Bit difficult to see if you don't know what you're looking for, because it looks like part of the stone circle, but they are in situ. They have stood for thousands and thousands of years. And if you put your hands above those stones, you feel heat radiating out. So imagine when it was a pristine temple, thousands of years ago, about 4,500 years ago, Orthodox dating, and you walk in that avenue and you feel that heat. Could it be that was, again, interacting with you from each stone coming at you like this? It is a wonder. And that's one of the things where people can really interact with. Now, I inherited, as many people know, the unpublished surveys of quite a few master dowsers, one of whom went to Stanton Drew just before the breakout of World War II. Okay, so it's a bit free access there. And what he discovered there, he claims, was underground tunnel systems. Well, everybody's talking about the Caffrey project and what's beneath the pyramids. Well, I don't think it's just related to pyramids, because the claim was it went off towards the cove feature at Stanton Drew, which is older than the stone circles, which we will be interacting with. It's in a pub, beer garden. I'm not making it up. It's in a pub, beer garden.
I love it.
So we can have lunch around stones. It will be lovely. And the tunnel system seemed to go towards the cove, or, as some people speculated, the church. And the church could have used it to, in times of Catholic prosecutions, they may have used that tunnel then. I know for a fact, because I've been there is a tunnel leading from a house at Avebury under the stone circle.
Oh my gosh.
So we've got a tunnel at Avebury, I believe a tunnel system at Stanton Drew, and I think a tunnel system at Stonehenge, cut out of the chalk bedrock on the higher, more sloping side of Stonehenge that would not become waterlogged.
Wow.
Okay. So when we're looking at all of this information coming out from the Caffrey project, that it's debated whether that's real or there's something into it. I'm not going to go into that debate because I do think there's something under the pyramids.
We've always known that, though.
We have,
Yeah.
You're right. But I would like to point out that we are going to walk where that tunnel system is and see if we can feel the energies being different, and then do some investigation while we're there as well. Do some kind of research for the ones that want to, and it's quite something. So we could be seeing what's above, but missing what's below.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that's what's so fascinating about dowsing. I had no idea dowsing was so vast, was so interesting. And having used pendulum at high levels for a long time, I just thought, oh, well, whatever. But it's almost mind-boggling that the average person doesn't know the amount of energies coming out of the earth and the grids within the earth, and how things wake up at 3 a.m. and change. I go out before the sunrise because it rises over the sunrise, the ocean right now for me, because that's a completely different energy. It's, as it's rising, as it's coming up, it's a red light. And I know it activates the stones differently, which is why they have these different cosmic alignments.
Yeah, it's physics. The ancients weren't necessarily so how can I put it, new agey about stones. They knew the physics of the stone. So what happens when the sun rises and indeed it sets? It's giving off a long wave of energy, and that's the red wave of energy. Okay, and you can physically see it. It's red and it's orange. Now that is full of other things like that. You've got red light, you've got microwaves coming out, and you've got a lot of material coming out of the sun. It's not just light. You've got microwaves. Now, then you've got a stone of piezoelectrical material, and you pass those microwaves through that stone and that red light through that stone, it's transduced to pressure and push pressure through an atmosphere, and it becomes sound, ultrasound. So they were triggering the stones to release sound, and that has been recorded several sites now, myself included in that project. So this is the physics of standing stones. And people will say, oh, it's aligned to see a pretty sunrise. No, it isn't. It's aligned for the physics of place.
Exactly.
And then it irrigates it outwards. The sound doesn't stay in the stone circle. This is what was discovered about 25, maybe 35 years ago. Where does time go? And it was being released outwards, irrigating the land with sound, which I believe and have postulated for many years that the long-skulled people could hear. And at Stonehenge, it's condensed because of the lintels that were on the top. So when you've got that ultrasound, the physics changes when you have stones on top.
Right.
A bit like a dolmen. Once you've got something on top, a dolmen, for those viewers that don't know, it's 2 stones or sometimes 4 with a stone on top. That's a dolmen. It's a bit like that at Stonehenge. You've got 2 stones that make a trilithon with a stone on top, and that changes the physics. It makes it very, very dynamic. So standing underneath one of the lintels at daybreak at a dolmen or at Stonehenge, you feel the energy. I believe you can feel ultrasound. I know there's going to be physicists out there that want to throw tomatoes at me or burn me at the stake. But I do feel that when you're in the right place by those stones, literally having the stone above your head, do you see what I mean? That's all you have to do, stand in between one of those linteled stones of the outer stone circle at Stonehenge, and you can feel the energy. And then when you walk out of it into, the more like a field area in front of Stonehenge, so to speak, you do feel the difference.
Yeah, and the heel stone and the spine stone, like they all have a different kind of energy, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and at Stonehenge, it's condensed because of all of the lintels on top, and they didn't
And
do
that
that.
keeps the energy inside the circle. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it would have done.
Yeah.
It would have done. I mean, today we're feeling the vestiges of it,
Yeah.
because it's not in its pristine condition. And even though it's not in its pristine condition, it is still very, very powerful, which makes me think, wow, what was it like fully charged? I think people didn't spend a long time in there. I think they're you didn't have to spend a long time when it was in its full functioning power. It would have been boom.
Yeah.
You'd be activated within seconds without sounding so dramatic, because I know that when you interact with spine stones, when I've done the tests, when I've done the physics, you don't need to spend a long time. 30 seconds we were recording changes in the body. It's not like an hour therapy that you get in human therapy. Megalithic power is extraordinary.
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably similar to here in the Maya built temples, like Chichen Itza is a school. It's a cosmic university, and it's all the like big glamour buildings that we know now. But then they had outlying groups of temples that you had to work through initiations to get to be able to do the initiations at the big giant one. And that's possible. That's what Stonehenge was, right? If it was that powerful compared to other circles that you've found, that perhaps you had to go through some training and some initiations in order to use it when it was a goddess temple.
Oh, absolutely. And interestingly, inside of Stonehenge originally, which I may have mentioned last time, but it's important to remember that which was, okay, rather than seeing the vestiges of today. And inside of that big henge that surrounded Stonehenge, which is a chalk wall in effect, then what I noticed was, and it was first discovered by Colonel Hawley at the turn of the last century when he excavated Stonehenge, that the mounds that you have, they're called station stones, and they're like a mound with a stone on top originally, although only a few survive at Stonehenge. There was 4 station stones. But the mound originally wasn't a mound. It was a timber healing temple with a stone set inside. And that has been discovered by UCL, University College London. And I realized that it was on these triple spiral energy patterns, a bit like what you see at Newgrange in a nutshell. And that was charging the stone with healing power. They had temple spaces with inside Stonehenge, and they were D-shaped areas as well. They were like a D shape, and Colonel Hawley discovered that it had a yellow floor. So it was a yellow plaster floor with a silver stone set amid it, which is symbolism, one could say, of the yin and the yang, the sun and the moon, gold and silver. I mean, I could go on,
right?
But that's what was at Stonehenge: 2 timber healing temples, which I reconstructed for the book. And who talks about those? It's like nobody talks about it unless you read, and it is a boring read, an archaeological report from UCL.
Yeah.
It's not in print,
Well, it's in your book.
It's in the book, because I really felt that was the priestesshood in charge of the stone, like a keeper of the stone or whatever their culture decreed. And it was such a healing, beautiful place. And we're going to stand there where the temple originally was at Stonehenge. And we get some funny looks, because the rest of if there's anybody else there, they'd be thinking, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Over there, stood on that mound. To experience the energy, because the energies hasn't dissipated. The timber structure was eventually turned into a mound by a different civilization that was masculine and worshipping the solar aspects. That's the system we have inherited. We inherited the Bronze Age solar system when Stonehenge was pristine and DNA had decreases. It was a goddess culture. Yeah. And so when we're tapping back into the memory of the Bronze Age people, they didn't want those healing temples. So they changed Stonehenge. They uprooted some stones and changed the configuration of Stonehenge, which was very, very symmetrical. And that's all documented. It's archaeologically correct. And it's a wonder. So if we go back and see it through imaginative eyes and imagine what it was like, we can still feel the healing energies that priestesshood did at Stonehenge.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned how important it is to remember the people. And that's what I love about this. This is the focus on the place and the stones, the earth energies, the healing energies, the moon energies. I mean, everything. So delicious. Okay. All the opportunities for us to have such a profound shift in such a profound time in the snake year. Okay. Come on. This is like transformation, reincarnation and everything, raising the goddesses and the healing temples and standing here. But remember the people, everything still exists. Time is fluid. So if every moment exists, then for me, whenever I go to a sacred site, which is almost weekly now, I enter talking to the land and the guardians and the trees and the ancestors, but I enter very aware that the wise ones are there and I want to interact with the wise ones that I want to interact with, right? So I come in with that. And that's true for you. That's true for us. And then we have you with this incredible wisdom. Talk about the pink crystals for a second, about the stones that had the pink crystals. And also I had a question is, we were talking about Stonehenge and that is apparently, I used to think, they all had the lintels because they just broke, it just fell apart. But I've heard you say that, no, that's unique to Stonehenge and that these other circles we went to didn't have the lintels.
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Stonehenge is unique. And that's why I think, America's Stonehenge should be called Mystery Hill.
Yeah.
But that's another story. No, when Stonehenge was in its pristine condition, a bit like Stanton Drew, has a natural pink hue to the color of the stone. Okay, it is you go with your hair, Nan, you're just going to blend in to Stanton Drew beautifully. So that'll make some good pictures. And it's got this beautiful pink hue, but as well, that's beautiful stuff. See, we got this really, really beautiful cut. That's because the sun's on it. That's a very beautiful. Could you just scroll to the bottom of that, Nan?
Yeah.
Okay. Check that stone to see if that's. Yeah, there's a similar stone to that one at Stanton Drew, which is got a ledge on it where you can sit and look towards the other elevated ground one. But we got this beautiful pink hue and you really see it's full of crystal. It is beautiful, but it's Stonehenge as well. And I'm going to show you one. See if I'm just going to show you a pink stone from Stonehenge.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, I mean, look at these pink crystals. Can you imagine? The Mayan priest I study with told me of a cave that I could get lowered into that's all pink crystals.
Right, that's a kind of silver-looking piece of sarsen that Stonehenge was. Most people are familiar with that color, but because the stones at Stonehenge, according to UCL, that boring archaeological report again, according to UCL, they never saw the light of day, Stonehenge stones, because they were dug out of the ground. They were buried in the ground, and when they're buried in the ground, they have this, I don't know if you'd be able to see it at the top. Let me get it close to camera, that pinky hue.
Yes,
around here. And so Stonehenge also had pinky colored hued stone. That's not the best pink stone, but I'll be bringing these so you can see them, and I place them next to the stones. So Stonehenge had this kind of goddess pink heart chakra, although some obviously you say it's green, the heart chakra, and it was colorful. So you're going from these pinky colored stones, and then as you walk into Stonehenge, the next ones you encounter are the blue stones. stones, which originally were highly polished, and I will take highly polished blue stone with me.
Oh, good. Yes, it's so, I really want to see that.
See the difference. And then as you walk closer to the holiest of holies, I think there was 2 altar stones. I was the first to say that, although a lot of male colleagues ran with that, but a woman said it first. And the altar stones were the jewels of Albion, of England, because they were green, flexed with garnet. Can you imagine that? Green and flexed with garnet. So we have the heart chakra green there, and it was being very colorful. Stanton Drew is like that. And when you go to a stone circle, if you're very careful, then at the base of the stone where the grass grows up, just gently pat it down with your hands or your feet, and you start to see what the stone probably originally looked like, because it's been kind of preserved a little bit better at its base. And if we are permitted to do so, we'll do that at Stonehenge as well. So yes, so it's a pink paradise.
Yay!
and Stonehenge was originally as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Was there anything else about these 2 amazing sites that we're going to go to on day 2 that you want to share?
Well, just I think it's always, really lovely to experience the womb energy of Stony Littleton. It is womb-like. I cannot explain how wonderful that womb energy is. And then to go to the goddess stone circle like Stanton Drew and, interact with its magical esoteric side. As well through the Venus magic square that the Chinese geomant located and showed me how to dowse. So they're great fun to dowse, and they're really wondrous to work with as well. And I think most people will love that energy. So we may have a really kind of beautiful womb-like experience in Stony Littleton. Then we'll be out in the open for Stanton Drew and the important full moon, right?
Yes, the full moon and the magic squares and all the different secret magic of the land. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Well, I'm already dreaming about it. And remember to get Maria's book. Some of the pictures I showed were from the book. That what you were just talking about is in the book, that the magic squares that I shared that was one of the things I saw, and I got so excited to do that. So we are so honored to get to do this, not just in general, but with you, Maria. And I can't thank you enough for what you do, how you're willing to go forward against the scholars sometimes to bring this really important knowledge out. Sometimes I feel like the scholars, they're trying, but like I said, they want to disregard so many elements of what they're figuring out, and they're leaving the full picture out, and it's not serving us. They feel like they're a stumbling block to us recovering this wisdom. So I'm so grateful, and I'm so happy we get to go with you. We get to bring your dowsing rods, or we'll have extras. So you can see it, you can feel it. I was telling someone the other day how you were showing us last year walking up to the side of the Abbey, which was not like a door, but this is the spot you stand in to cleanse or to heal before you go in the temple. And of course, it was not incorporated into the temple, but how people felt it. But then we went down over the altar, and people walked up to the vortex or spiral that's coming up through that altar, and to see the look on people's faces when you're holding that dowsing rod and it just goes, woo, it's really, it just gives you another level of, for that logical mind, but tangibility to all these energies we're talking about. Because look, we've all been seeking this out esoterically and standing at these sites and meditating, and now we get to have this, like you said, the physics, we get to understand the other layers of it and put together a bigger picture. So thank you. Thank you. Okay. So Oh, 10:01. I love it. We have a little parentheses there. So we will see you again. Make sure that you check here or you get on the list to know when we're going to do the next show. I think we have it planned for the 9th. Maybe we'll change it to the full moon on the 11th. And make sure that you check out. Let us know if there's any questions you have. I'm happy to talk to anybody about the retreat. All the details are there, as well as if you want, you do not have to have accommodations. However, we do have them available if you would like, and you just contact me and we'll let you pick whatever you want, or you can get your own. All right. Thank you so much, Maria. Have a beautiful new moon. And thanks everybody for sharing this beautiful new moon energies. I think we just planted some really nice goddess seeds. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll just give thanks to these beautiful places and to our ancestors and to these long-skulled ancestors, to the civilization, to the queens and the priestesses, and to all those who raised these temples and found these energies and harnessed them and can now teach us through time to bring this wisdom into our lives for harmony, peace, and joy for all. May this circle be open, yet unbroken, and the beauty of this wisdom and the voice of these ancient women of wisdom, love, and power echo through our steps and our voice and into the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, everyone, have a beautiful day. Yay. Hi, Christy. Okay, ladies.